Okay, today we will be learning Daf Zayin on the base. We on Daf Zayin on the Aleph, we had a machlokes whether because it says that you cannot use for an Erev or also to buy with the money of Ma'aser Sheni when you're in Yerushalayim, you want to buy food. So for both of these, you cannot use water and salt. In other words, you can't use water and salt for your Erev. That's mentioned in the Mishnah. And also the Mishnah mentioned you can't buy with the money of Ma'aser Sheni in Yerushalayim, you can't buy water and salt. Then we had this statement, Lo Shonu, only if it's if the water and salt are not mixed together. So the water and salt are not mixed together, then you cannot buy them with Ma'aser Sheni money, or you cannot use them for an Erev. The reason why you cannot use them for an Erev is because they don't really satisfy you in any way whatsoever. Other things satisfy maybe not for a long time, but at least short terms, they satisfy your hunger. Whereas these don't satisfy your hunger at all. But if you mix it, and that's what it's this about. If you mix it, the water with the salt. So if you mix the water with the salt, so then it will be okay. You can use it. And we had a machlokes. What is this? What is referring to? Whether when we say if the water is mixed, when we say we are now discussing from Daf Zayin Amud Aleph, where we said that if the water and the salt is mixed together, so then it becomes a sort of a dip, and therefore, according to one opinion, you could use that for the Erev, because even though because something which is used, which is useful for a dip, to eat with bread or with other things which you dip it in, so something which is used for dip, to eat with other things, that's also counted and can be used for the Erev. So therefore, was one opinion that salt and water mixed together, you can use that. If it's mixed together, you can use it for the Erev because they are good as a dip. And then there was another opinion that said that if the salt and the water used together, you can even buy that with the money of Ma'aser Sheni when you're in Yerushalayim. It qualifies that you're able to spend the Ma'aser Sheni money on that in Yerushalayim. Now, after that, we had a question concerning Ma'aser Sheni. The question was concerning Ma'aser Sheni, that we have a machlokes whether tzir can be tzir is the juice in which the fish was pickled or cooked or pickled, so which is salty. So there was a machlokes, but whether the tzir can be, whether you can spend the money of Ma'aser Sheni on tzir in Yerushalayim. And what was the machlokes? So the machlokes was about because one person said only if you have bits of fish still left in it. If you have bits of fish, then you can use the money of Ma'aser Sheni to buy that tzir in Yerushalayim. And the other opinion was you can use that tzir even you can buy that tzir. You can spend the money of the Ma'aser Sheni. You can spend the money of the Ma'aser Sheni to buy tzir even with no pieces of fish. Just you have the taste and the fats of the fish, and it's going to be obviously some juice of the fish is going to be there, and so that you can still buy it. But what does that mean? That if you have a mixture of salt and water, and it's just salt and water, you cannot spend the money of Ma'aser Sheni. So this was the question on the opinion, which said that the opinion said that you can use if the salt is mixed if the salt is mixed with the water, then you can spend Ma'aser Sheni money on it. So it's a question because even the most lenient opinion only permitted it to spend the Ma'aser Sheni money on it if it had pickled the fish in it, so it had some fish juice in it. So Rabbi says, okay, that this, when we said that the water and salt is you can spend the money Ma'aser on water and salt, means if you have oil in it as well. So you put some oil into it, so it's a mixture of salt, water, and oil. What I would like to say is that there's a discussion over here concerning the mixed water and salt, the mixed water and salt concerning buying it with the money Ma'aser Sheni. What about the Eruv, the mixture of water and salt concerning the Eruv? So the mixture of water and salt concerning the Eruv. So according to Tosfos, that the same applies to the Eruv as well. That when we say that the Eruv, you're permitted to use water and salt for the Eruv, you have to have at least some juice of the fish or some shemen inside it. There's oil inside it. So it's not just plain water and salt. That is the opinion of Tosfos. And in the Rambam, it's just the Rambam and the Riv. So according to them, is that for the Eruv, yes, for Ma'aser Sheni, you have to have some oil or something else inside it. But when you get to Eruv, according to Rambam and the Riv, that is you can, if you have for Eruv, it's more lenient, and just water and salt is sufficient. And in Shulchan Aruch, the Shulchan Aruch brings both opinions. So it's one opinion that water and salt is sufficient for an Eruv if it's mixed together, of course. And the other opinion, no, that you have to have something inside it, some oil inside it, and only then is it sufficient for an Eruv. But the discussion, which we're going to be having Gemara, is going to be about the Ma'aser Sheni, and that's what we're going to, the whole discussion on this page. Yeah, the situation of the Eruv is not clear in the Gemara, and that's why I just mentioned what the poskim bring about it. Okay, so Amar Rav Yosef, so we said this yesterday, they put oil in it. So if you put oil in it, so that's why you're allowed to spend Ma'aser Sheni money on it. So if that's the case, if the typically mishum shemen, so why are you saying, oh, you're allowed to use it water and salt? You say water and salt, you can spend Ma'aser Sheni on it. It's the oil, since you have oil in it, it's the oil. The oil. That is why you are permitted to use Ma'aser Sheni money, because of the oil inside it. So what's the halacha? Yes, oil you can buy with the money Ma'aser Sheni. What does the water and salt come in? Okay. So the answer, the Gemara's answer is a question, right? So the Gemara says, that he's spending the money on this mixture of oil and water and salt, but he's paying for the oil, yes, but the truth is, oil is a bit cheaper than that. He's paying a bit extra for the oil. So if regular oil, that amount of oil would cost, let's say, £2, so he will be paying £3 because it's already mixed up with salt and the water. So he's paying an extra £1 for it. So that means he's spending an extra £1 of Ma'aser Sheni money for this oil, which is mixed in water soda. So that's okay. You're allowed to do that, even though the water and the salt is not. You're not permitted to spend Ma'aser Sheni money on the water and the salt. If you're paying for the oil and it comes as part of the oil, comes part and parcel with the oil. If it comes part and parcel with the oil, then you're allowed to pay, which in reality is that the money is actually, some of the money actually was being spent on the water and the oil. That's fine. So the inside again, it's swallowed up in the payment which you make for the shemen, but you are paying for the water and the oil because the price of the shemen is a bit more expensive. So the Gemara asks the question, are you allowed to? So 1 second. So it means part of Ma'aser Sheni money is being spent on something which you're not allowed to spend Ma'aser Sheni money on. So the Gemara says, and yes, if it's Bahavla, if you're paying for something and because of that, there's something else which comes with it, which comes part and parcel. with this item which you're paying, which you're permitted to spend money. This item which you're permitted to spend money of Ma'aser Sheni on in Yerushalayim, and as part and parcel that you get something else which you've paid for as well. But if it's part and parcel of something which is permitted, then you are allowed to spend Ma'aser Sheni money on it. Even though had that been independent, you would not be allowed to spend Ma'aser Sheni on it. Okay, but Tanya and Tanya, this is the price. You'll see that in the price. He says, the Pasuk says, the Pasuk is like this: when you spend the money in Yerushalayim when you come, for whatever you desire. So it says for every desire. But then the Pasuk says, but Bokor, but Tzoyin, it specifies Bokor, Tzoyin, Yayin, Sheikh. So it has these four details. And then it says then it says anything which you want to spend your money. Anyway, so the Babokar, from Babokar, Melamed comes to teach you Shalokim Bokar Agav Oirei. They're allowed to spend the money and buy a bokar, a cow, even though you get part of the money that you're paying for the skin. So therefore, you're buying a cow, ox or whatever, and you're buying ox, and that means you're paying for the skin as well. And you're not, but some of the money is going for the skin of the ox. But since that's how the ox comes with this skin. So yes, you buy the ox and the skin as well, and you pay for it. And when you're done with the animal, you've eaten the meat of the animal, and the skin you've not eaten. So you don't have to take the skin, sell the money of the skin, and buy some other fruits of Ma'aser Sheni. No. The skin you can just use for yourself or whatever. It's even though it's not going to be eaten in Yerushalayim, the skin, that's fine. Because it was B'Havlah, it comes as part and parcel of the thing which you're permitted to spare. So if it's part and parcel of it, then you're allowed to buy even this addition, this necessary addition to this thing which is permitted to spend money. So that's what we learn from a bokar. You can spend money in for the skin, but tzoyin, the lamech, the tzoyin, you learn out that you can even buy. You buy a nice woolly sheep now. Buy a nice woolly lamb. You buy a nice woolly lamb. No, you're paying extra because it's nice and woolly, because you can share it, and that's going to be quite some of the money is going to be spent. You're paying for some of it is actually includes a price which is because of the wool on the lamb. That never is allowed. So you're allowed to spend Ma'aser Sheni money on that, on this whole sheep when you're buying it together. Obviously, when it's still grown, it's not being shared off. Well, yain, water, so you can buy. Sorry, yain is wine. Yeah, yain is wine. Melamed to teach you you can buy wine even though and with a bottle. So you're actually paying an extra 5 or 10p, whatever it is that you're paying for the bottle. But since you're paying for the wine, so yes, you're paying actually 5p extra, 10p extra for the bottle, and that is permitted. Why? Because the bottle is part and parcel of the wine. Wine comes with a bottle, yeah, it's some sort of container. Will be sheikhar and beer. Melamed is so what's the teacher? That you can buy even you take the wine, then you take the after you've made the wine, you have all the seeds, whatever it is, which is left over, and then you're adding water to it. So you're adding water to it, and to those seeds or the peels of the wine, which have set down at the bottom of the barrel, and you've taken the wine off, and then you're adding water to it, and then it becomes not proper wine. It's similar to wine, but it becomes a nice alcoholic drink. So a bit wine tasting, obviously. But so it's a des sheikhar. So even though it's water, primarily water, you're allowed to pay for that. Mishahachmitz. Hachmitz when it's become fermented. Otherwise, it's water. You're paying water. But so if it's fermented, so then you can buy even this water, which comes originally from these wine things. You can buy that as well. You can pay for that. You can spend the money on that. Okay. Now, Omer Rabbi Yechon says. So this is Ben Bakbak says. So we have the principle that if you're getting something, which even though by itself, independently, you will not be allowed to spend the Ma'aser Sheni money on it. But nevertheless, if it comes as part and parcel of something which you're permitted to buy, so then you're allowed to, even though you're spending some of the money is actually going towards that, you're allowed to buy that with the Ma'aser Sheni money. So that's proof to what we said before. Anyway, now we come to an analysis of Rabbi Yochanan on the question of Rabbi Yochanan on this price. Rabbi Yochanan said, "Man de metargem babokar alibe de ben bagbag." Somebody who will explain me how the limud, what's the limud of the Bakar according to the Bagbag, to explain me the opinion of the Bagbag, how he explains the pasuk by Bakar. I'll carry his clothes after him to the barn side. I'll be his shamash, so to speak. I'll be his misharas and shamash. That I'll even give him this respect by carrying his clothes for him as he goes to the barn. Why that? My time? What's the reason? Because you need all the psukim, all the 4 psukim. You need the word babakar is actually extra. We don't need it, and the Gemara is going to explain. My tzrichi. What do you need all these psukim for? You just say once the principle that one example would be good enough. Would tell us the principle that anything else which comes b'havla, if it comes part and parcel of it, you're allowed to spend the money by Masechta. Why do you have to have so many numerous examples? So he says you need them. Why? If it's only babokar, I would have said bokar with the that you're allowed to buy bokar together with the skin because it's the body. It's one single item. The skin and the bokar, the meat is a live bokar. It's just one item. It's one gufa. It's his body. That's it. So it's inseparable. That's why I like to spend the money on the. You end up spending some of the money goes towards the skin. But the tzoyin with the wool which is growing on it, the lav guvayu, it's not the actual body. It's not the actual body because you can't separate. So it's not the actual body. You cut off the shear, the animal will still be alive, and so on. You would say you're not allowed to spend the money there. That's something separate. That's not considered part and parcel. Okay, so then pasuk adds tzoyin that even the wool which is growing on it is still considered part and parcel. If we say that you can pay money for the tzoyin together with the wool which is growing on it, the same because it's connected. Okay, true that it's not the wool is not the body of the animal itself. It's not totally one item, but it can be considered like one item because it's connected to it. It's still, it's still growing from it and it's connected to it. Therefore, it's still considered one item. Therefore, it's still considered one item. So therefore, you're not to spend the extra money which it costs for the wool have been on it as well. But kind of pay wine and buy the bottle. It's 2 separate items. So therefore, since it's 2 separate items, I would say you can't pay for the bottle, the extra 5-10 p which costs the bottle when you're buying the wine. So that's why the pasuk says yayin that even this kankan, which is also you're permitted to spend the money because in the end it is considered. That's also considered part and parcel of it, because at the end of the day, in the wine you have to have some sort of container. Okay, you can pull out this one, put in another one, but some container you have the wine. You can't have wine without any container. So therefore, it's permitted to spend the money on Masechta. I would have said, you know what? Yeah, that you're allowed to spend the money for the bottle because that is it's a guard that keeps it. You cannot keep the wine. You cannot. So that's the shomer of the wine. The truth is shomer. It's a shomer that keeps the wine. Otherwise, it just pour out, and therefore you're allowed to spend the money on it. But these peel and seeds, which it's turned the water a bit. It's turned the water into giving it some sort of alcoholic taste. So then the kiyur b'halmo. So this water which is there is just it's not really a bottle to the temet, so to speak. You could argue. Yeah, you could argue that what that is just you have a bit of a sharpness from this. The peels has gone into that water. Then that's not sufficient. So of course you can easily separate the water from the sediment there. You can easily separate. That's not an issue. Of course you can, and even though there is a taste in it, but that's not really an important taste. Kiyur, it's just a sharpness. Therefore, it doesn't count as part and parcel of the temet. It's not good as one. So I'd say you're not allowed to. So that's you spend the money. That to spend the Masechta money on it. So therefore, the pasuk tells that even temet, at the end of the day, it's considered a part of the products of the grape, and therefore, even though there's water in it, and it's united with it, and therefore you not spend the Masechta money because Rachman Sheikha, yeah, And now, so we've explained why. We've gone to the order of the pasuk, explained why this one is not, why bakar is not enough. We need tzayin, then that's not enough. We need yain, that's not enough. We need sheikh. Okay, but let the pasuk just do the last one, and then we know all the other ones. So the Gemara says this. Because the pasuk still, we have to have all of them. We can't say, oh, just have the last one, the biggest chiddush. It seems from this, the way it's set, that the biggest chiddush is the last one. So let's just say the biggest chiddush, and then we know all the smaller chiddush. So the Gemara says, if it would say just b'sheicher, I would say my sheicher. I would explain. I would have thought sheicher means something else. I wouldn't have thought it doesn't mean something which is added onto the fruit. It's the fruit itself. The vela keilis, the peru, it's the fruit itself. This I don't know, the vela is a type of date. So this is the vela keilis, I guess, from a type of place. Which is date is, or fig, whatever it is. This date of fig is itself meshacher. It's meshacher. The fruit itself. If you eat the fruit itself, it's meshaker. So I would have thought that sheikhar is not the pirush of the sediment of the wine together with water. I would have thought it's a certain type of fig or fruit, which actually has in it the properties that it's meshaker, but it's the actual fruit itself. Now, fruit itself, that you're allowed to spend your money on. So I would have translated sheikhar to mean something else. So I said, but wine, the bottle, pay for the bottle. How can you do that? I would say, okay, so let's have two, sheikhar and the yain. So if yain, say also yain, agav kanchane. So then I still need tzayin and bakar. I would say the hanin and tirus. Okay, that in one way of looking at it, even though the kankan is transferable, you can put the wine from one kankan to another kankan or another type of container. Yes, but at the end of the day, we can argue that the kankan is integral to the wine. Why? Why is it integral to the wine? Because you have to have something that's the shemer. You can't have the yain without a shemer. That keeps the wine. So therefore, okay, it's a different production. It's something, a different item altogether, but it's integral to the wine anyway, because that is a shemer. But the wool of the sheep to pay for the woolly sheep. How can you pay for this extra whatever pound, 10 pounds you're paying because of the wool? How can you do that? This is not integral. The wool is not integral. We share it off and then let him sell to you for cheaper price. Hey, Malay. Because that's why it says that feel gav also. Even the sharings, even the wool, you can pay for the wool. Oh, if that's the case, so therefore, so if that's the case, so the way we've reached right now, so if it would say tzayin, yayin, shecher, I would know all these items, and then there's no need for the bakar, because if it's tzayin, you're permitted to pay for the wool, certainly you're permitted to pay for the skin of the bakar, yes. So why do we need the bakar? So that was a question of Rabbi. The question of Rabbi, the bakar is extra. We don't need it to pay for the skin. So okay, you might sort of try and answer that if the pasuk would not write a bakar, I would have learned the pirush in tzayin slightly different. So since I would say, listen, it says tzayin. So I would say, you know what? Maybe the pasuk is talking about tzayin, which the wool has been taken off. How do I know the wool? How do I know the pasuk is talking about tzayin, a woolly sheep? Maybe it's talking a non-woolly sheep where you've shared off. Then you're allowed to get the tzayin with the skin. So that so therefore we need babakar. So once we have babakar, so the halacha that you can pay for the skin, we know already. So then we realize that what's the extra word tzayin is extra. So that's what you can use the shearings as well. So that's what the Gemara. Let's say the insight. Even when it says tzayin, I would have thought I would have learned out the pirush in the scenario of a tzayin if it's been shared already. Is the skin, but not for the giza. That's why that's why it says to tell us that there's the skin you're permitted to pay. So the when it says why do you need tzayin? What's the extra limited tzayin? The skin we know already. Now we're able to learn that the skin, it means even a sheep which has not been shared. Is isolated tzayin asui gizos even the world. But that's not a good. So we might answer that, but that's not a good teretz. Why? So he says, why is it not good teretz? If it would not say, let's say there's no possible bakar, only three items: the shayin and shecher and tzayin. I would not say I would not say that you can't the sharing. You can only the skin. I would not say it's talking about a sheared tzayin. Why? Again, if it would just say tzoin, it would not say bakar, it would say all the other stuff, but it would not say bakar. I would not say, you know what time is talking about? It's talking about tzoin, which has been shared already. Why? Because the imk, if that's the case, it's talking about a shared tzoin. Why does the pasuk say tzoin? Why does the pasuk say tzoin, which is not so clear? Because we're talking about shared tzoin, and therefore, and then what's permitted? Only the skin. Why does the pasuk say in such an unclear way? Look at the Rachmana Bakar. It's the pasuk right bakar. The Mimela isolate saying, so it should so it should write by bakar, so it should write bakar, and therefore and they wouldn't need the right bakar. You don't need tzayin. If just the skin, it should write bakar, and you don't need the word tzayin. And so therefore, the pasuk chose the tzayin, even there's no bakar in the pasuk. And I understand from that itself, it chose tzayin as opposed to bakar. It is to tell us that even with the word, I feel like I'm gesasa. So why do you need a bakar? If they could say, you can buy and spend the money on with the wool. Certainly, bakar for the skin, you're allowed to. Yeah. So the kids are that's what Rabbi said. Man, the time of the bakar, I'll leave it back. Somebody will explain me what you need the word bakar. According to the back, I'll take is close to the bath. Sure. So we have this kasha. Why do we need this pirush of bakar? Okay, fine. The Gemara says, "Michael Miflager Rebbe Huda ben Godish Rebbe Loza v'Hanin K'Tanoid will come on." What is the argument of Rebbe Huda ben Godish and Rebbe Loza? Rebbe Huda ben Godish and Rebbe Loza, they say, that's what we start off the share with. They say that you're permitted to buy tzir. Okay, maybe with a bits of fish in it or without bits of fish in it. So Rebbe Huda ben Godish and Rebbe Loza, they say that you are permitted to spend the money Ma'aseh on this fish juice, whether with bits or without bits. Right. The Bahana Tanoid will come on, and the Tanoim, which we'll learn later, which say that you cannot spend money on fish. So according to Rebbe Huda ben Godish and Rebbe Lazar, you're allowed to spend the money Ma'aseh on fish. Whereas the Tanoim, which we're going to mention later, they hold that you cannot spend money on fish. You can spend money on animals, fruit, but not on fish. So what is the basis of the machlokes? So he says like this. Because we have a klal of pratik klal in the Torah. Now, every time you have a klal of pratik klal, there's two ways of learning it. You can call it klal of pratik klal, or you can call it ribui, miut, and ribui. And there's a difference of how these klolim work. If it's called klal of pratik klal, it works one way. If those who call it ribui, miut, and ribui, then the klal has a different way of learning. Let's see. The dashi ribui remote the hanitnoid dashi call it prot. Yeah. So they dashi call it proti. So you end up with less items being allowed to spend the money on. And if you learn riba miut, then you have more money where you spend the more items where you can buy with the masheni money in your shtayim. Okay, he's going to explain. Dashi, they say ribuyim dashi ribuyim uti. Basically, if you do riba and miut, then you start off, you say ribui, you add everything, and therefore the miut, so you only might a bit. So when you're marba basic, riba means you marba everything, and then but because you have these miutim, so you take away a bit. So basically, what's included in the pasuk, almost everything, except one thing or which you may mind. If you say klal prat klal, so ain be klal, then it's klal prat klal is ke'ena prat. So it's ke'ena prat. That way, that means that you go according to prat, then you add things which are similar to the prat, but not everything. So you end up with less than with the limit of riba, miut, and riba. Okay, let's do it inside. Everything, you spend everything. Wherever you desire, you can spend the money in Yerushalayim. But Boker B'Tzayim Yam Sheicher Mir. No, not everything, because you're specifying. So it means not everything. So it's again the end of the pasuk is another riboy. So how do you learn it? Riba or miut riba hakoil. So if it's the cloud, if it's riba miut, and then there's a riba, so it's hakoil. It comes to marba everything because you have a riba in the end. So it comes to marba everything. Even though you have a riba, so you start with a riba, then you have a miut. If you have only riba and miut, if you have a riba miut, then it's not just might one thing. It's a riba and a miut. Then it's going to be riba miut is ke'en ha-miut. So if it's riba miut, it's ke'en ha-miut. That's how it works. But then you have riba again. So it's more than ke'en ha-miut. It's like riba hakod. So you're back to square one, except there's going to be a bit of an exception. My Rabbi kol mili, or my miut. So so we're back to we brought everything back, we marba everything, but something has to be taken off because there is a miut in the end. So my miut must be and that's machloiket. Rabbi has a my tzir or Yehuda Mishlok shemait mine umelach. So according to Yehuda Mishlok and Godish, it's might mine umelach. According to Rabbi, it's might tzir, and you have to have pieces of fish there. But b'cholefen, you're not might fish. Fish is not might. Fish tells you. So so the tzir, if it has a little bit pieces of fish, that's okay. According to Rabbi, and according to Rabbi, because you don't even need the pieces, just the juice of the fish is okay for that. But you're certainly not going to buy fish altogether. You can't buy any fish. You just a plain fish by itself, you can't buy that with a that you're not going to be buying. Because the Hanitanoi, but the other Tanoim, Darshikol Proti. They Darshikol Prat. So, because just to repeat, if you darshan ribui miut and ribui, in the end, it's almost it's almost you marba everything. Something you have to remind, some small amount. But if you darshan, so therefore, fish is also included in what you can buy, because you're not mind. You might chves, mind melech, sir. The Hanit Noid Dash called the Prophet. Dash called Prat. The time in Sata Kess called Shavan Cloud. The book of the Iyar Shechel Prat. Chos Shoshan Shechel Chos the Kolal. Cloud Prat the Cloud. Like we say in everyday davening, you have to don. Okay, in a Prat. It has to be similar to the Prat. What's it? Ma Prat Mefurish. So what's Mefurish? We have in the Prat. We have Yain Shecher and Bokar and things. Pre that it grows one from the other. So from a Bokar you get another Bokar. One Bokar gives birth to another Bokar. The grape gives birth to another grape. You take the grape, you put it in the ground, out comes another grape. We'll kill it, tree in the middle, all the rest of that. But it's so one grows from the other, but one goes from the other. Yeah. It's not like water. Water is not pre. You don't get water, doesn't come from water. Water is water. It's not, doesn't grow from it. Here, this thing, you have one pre, you put it in the ground, comes another pre. Or one cow gives birth to another cow. That's called pre. Salt is not pre, you just dig it from the water, from the earth. But pre is not. But these protein, all these four protein, which are items you mentioned, are pre and geduli karka. They're also geduli karka. The means was geduli karka because that they grow from the karka. What does it mean they grow from the karka? They grow from the karka means they feed on the karka. Yeah. So parrots obviously grow from the karka, but even animals they feed off the karka. So what do they feed off? So here we have a wide interpretation of the categorization of Geduli Karka, because in the pasuk we see that the pasuk includes Bakar Vatzayin. So therefore, yes, but so Bakar Vatzayin, in a way, they're called Geduli Karka because they feed off the earth. Is Af Kol similar? Also, everything pre Geduli Karka, so Geduli Karka, but right, it has to be Geduli Karka. And the Gemara, the end of the Gemara is going to say later the Gemara, which we'll learn tomorrow, is going to come out. The conclusion of the Gemara will be that fish is not considered gedulei karka. But we have in the middle we have another piece. But the end conclusion is that fish is not considered gedulei karka because it doesn't live off the ground; it eats from the sea. that now the Gemara says Tanya Idach learned another brayse prat mefurish. So there's two ways of understanding this kala prat. So in this, there's also machlokes. In this kala prat, there's two ways of explaining it. One is pri v'geduli karka. That's one. The other way is the Tanya Idach ma prat mefurish vlad vlodis ha'oretz. I've called vlad vlodis ha'oretz. That so vlad vlodis is means besides pri, so it has to be born it was created from the earth. So this Tanya Idach that adds that the klal prat is not two conditions. One condition is pri and gedule karka. The Tanya Idach adds three conditions: pri, gedule karka, and vlad vlodis ha'oretz. When Hashem created, He created it from the earth. So Amar Prat and first Vlad Vlod I've come Vlad Vlod just like the Boker and the Tzayin and all this were created from the earth, so it also is created from the earth. My benai, what's the difference? So I said in the end, Gedule Karka means it excludes fish. But in the very beginning, that's not the pirush of Gedule Karka. So right now we have two brises. How to, even if you follow the learning of Klal Prat, how do you interpret it? So the Gemara says, my benai, what's the difference between the two? So originally the Gemara says, Amar Abaya, dogim ik benai. The difference is dogim. Lemanda Oma, the fish. So originally Abaya, his opinion was that fish is also considered Gedule Karka. So because they have some benefit from the karka, whatever, so they also considered Gedule Karka. That was the original opinion. And the Manda Oma Vlad Vlod Ha'oretz dogim mimayim ivru. So the person says it has to be created. That the add third condition that it has to be created from the earth. If you look in the Bereshis, they were created from the fish were created from the water. So therefore, so right now, and we'll finish off with that. So that they have two brises, how to learn the klal part of the klal, and what's different to two brises? One has two conditions, which you can buy with the money of myself. One has only three conditions. One has two conditions. You can buy fish, because fish is also included in Gedule Karka according to the Gemara's understanding right now. And whereas those who add, there's a third condition that has to be created from the earth when it in my separations. So then fish is not included because fish were created from water, not from earth. Rabbi will do